Sup nerd, I'm Schrodinger's Kitten, and today I'm going to show you how to defeat Penance using only the attack command. This is based on a really great series by Dansgo8. I'll link the series into the description, but the short version is he was able to defeat almost every enemy in the game, including all the Dark Aeons, most of the Monster Arena, using only the attack command, but he felt like Penance was not possible. When I watched that series, I was like, no, I feel like Penance should be possible. I think there are, it might be really rough, but I think it will be possible. So I spent a few weeks theorizing, trying to come up with something that would work, and eventually I was able to defeat Penance using attack only, and that's what I'm going to show you today. So the first thing to note is that I did not do a full attack only playthrough, just so that I could get to the Penance fight and do the Penance fight attack only. I used a save editor to save myself a load of time, because this took long enough as it was. So yes, some things might look a little off, and that is because I used a save editor. I think that's allowed. But I'm not, I guess, and the rule is I'm not allowed to use a save editor to give myself anything that I couldn't have running a standard attack-only playthrough. There are one of the problems Dansgo8 came across is that it's very limited in terms of the kind of items that you have, because you can't steal, you can't bribe, you can't mug. So the items, the number of customizations we can do of certain armors and things is quite limited, and I'm bound by those restrictions. The other thing to say on rules is all I can do is attack, but this isn't the auto battle challenge, if you like. It's not the auto battle variant of the challenge where all we can do is mash X as if it was auto battle, and essentially we just have to attack Penance's sort of main body. I've given myself the freedom to choose to attack the arms as well, so it's attack only in that sense rather than auto battle. So in terms of strategy, obviously we don't have a whole bunch of freedom in terms of what we can do once we're in the fight. We're just attacking, and we're going to want to be attacking the arms most of the time, and Penance's body when we don't need to attack the arms. And we also don't really have a lot of freedom in terms of the weapons we can choose. With how high Penance's defense is, we really are going to want everybody to be using their celestial weapons. In this case, I think Orin's celestial weapon is the best, because it does most damage when he is low on health, which he's going to be for most of the fight. In terms of who else you want in there, Titus, Waka, Kamari are all good. Counterattack's pretty good, or evading counter just as good. Orin's first strike ability is a little useful, but other than that, it doesn't really matter. You probably could do this with just about anybody, as long as you have at least one character that can counterattack. But yeah, most of the strategy really does come down to what army you use, because that is the one area where we do have sort of a bit of freedom. So let's talk about that in more detail. The first thing to consider is that we cannot ever allow Penance to use Judgment Day. We can't summon, and we have no access to auto life, so there is no way for us to survive a Judgment Day. But that's sort of luckily for us. We don't have to take a Judgment Day, so long as we can make sure that there's never both arms alive at the same time. We aren't at risk of taking Judgment Day. But what that does mean is we need to be able to kill the arms fast enough. And the only way for us to guarantee that we're fast enough to always kill the one arm before the next arm respawns is if we have haste status. So we would want to put auto haste on everybody. However, unfortunately, as I mentioned in the rules section, we're only allowed to have the items that you could get on an attack-only playthrough. And on an attack-only playthrough, you can only ever have 2 ornaments with auto haste. You can customize one from the chocobo wings you get from the monster arena, and then you can farm one other drop from Dark Mindy, and you will need both if you want to do this, and you will need to have not customized them up to this point. But then, what do we do with our other character? Well, we can give them SOS haste and make sure that they spend the entire fight below half health. The next thing we need to note is that a second immolation will always kill. So once you get to phase 2, Penance will start using an attack called Immolation. It does quite a bit of damage. It won't necessarily kill with its first attack. However, its first attack inflicts a status called Armor Break, which we have no way of protecting against. Like, that's just not possible unless you're an Aeon in this game. And we can't cure it once we get the status because we can only use the attack command. So once we're armor broken, the next immolation that character gets hit with will kill them. So fortunately, immolation only hits one character at a time, but characters are inevitably going to die in phase 2. There's nothing we can do about it. This is not like a standard Penance fight where you just try and keep everybody up all of the time. People are going to have to die, so we're going to have people with Auto Phoenix, and we're going to need 2 people with Auto Phoenix. Now, believe it or not, this setup is almost everything you need to get through phase 2 of the Penance fight. Phase 2 is actually quite a bit more forgiving than phase 1, because in phase 1 Penance will attack everybody at the same time, which is a big problem for us. Whereas in phase 2, he will only ever attack one character at once, which is a lot easier for us to deal with because we have access to Auto Phoenix. However, the one place this will fall short in phase 2, this current setup, is we'd run out of Phoenix Downs before we defeat Penance, because we're going to have to be spending almost all of our attacks to constantly be killing the arms and keep them down, and we'd only get an attack on Penance once in a blue moon, because he's going to be killing a character essentially every single turn, so that's basically one character that's out of commission and being revived and not getting turns all the time, because he'll kill them as fast as they can get revived. So what can we do to counter that? Well, we give one of our characters that has counterattack. We give them either Auto Regen or SOS Regen. We give them Break HP Limit, and we give them Auto Protect. What this will allow that character to do is sometimes survive an immolation. And therefore they can counterattack, and therefore they can get a few extra attacks in, and it's not ideal. We'll still be like quite low on Phoenix Downs by the end of the fight, but we will be able to beat Penance in phase 2 before we run out of Phoenix Downs most of the time. Okay, so what about phase 1? Well, in phase 1, Penance is going to use Obliteration. It is going to hit everybody. It is always going to do more than 9999 damage, even with Protect, which kind of means we're in a race against time, because there's no way we can have both our healers offset so that they sort of revive each other on alternate times, because he's doing more damage than we would come back to life with. So what we want to do is put Break HP Limit on them, give them 5 9s of HP, and also Auto Protect, and this is the combination that will allow them to survive for the absolute longest. But that only leaves them surviving about 9 or 10 obliterations before our Auto Phoenix users die and the run is over, essentially. So in those 9 or 10 obliterations worth of time, across all of our characters, we'll have about 60 attacks, which is good. We only need 31 attacks on Penance's body to take us through to phase 2. So we do have enough time, but unfortunately, if we wanted to attack the arms and make sure the arms never got an attack, we'd need to give them... we need to allocate 48 attacks to those arms, and that does not math. So how do we resolve this? Well, we resolve this by allowing the arms to attack sometimes. Judgment Day isn't a problem in phase 1. Penance can't use Judgment Day during phase 1. And fortunately, there are some things that the arms can do which don't really cause us problems. Unfortunately, there's also a lot of things the arms can do which do cause us serious problems, and we have to let them have turns, or else we aren't going to kill Penance's body in time, and we're going to run out of health, and we're going to die before we get to phase 2. So how do we resolve this? Well, we sort of brute force it. Basically, what we need to do is keep resetting and resetting and resetting until the arms do exactly what we want them to do. How much resetting do we need to do? Well, I captured almost half a terabyte of footage in unsuccessful attempts doing this and still think I got pretty lucky. In fact, some of you will notice that a small sample of my failed attempts has been playing in the background this whole time. In fact, speaking of that footage, some of you will also notice that I'm playing on an emulator. I'm not playing on the HD remaster, which is like, hey, Schrodinger's Kitten, why are you not playing on the remastered version? Isn't that the whole point of the challenge, that you'd use the auto battle feature that was included in the HD remaster where possible? And yes, you're right, it was. But I want to use state saves, not to cheese my way through the battle by using state saves mid-battle, but before the start of the battle, I need to do a whole bunch of menuing by changing Kimahri's armor from something without break HP limit to break HP limit, and then healing him up so that he can start the battle in SOS haste. And then there's a short cutscene I'd need to watch, and I needed to do this literally thousands of times. So yeah, I went for the version of the game where I could use state saves and jump to the start of the fight. Shoot me, sorry. Okay, so right off the bat, what we want to do is we want to take arm 1 down to until it's 1 hit away from death, and get some damage down to arm 2 as well, because we are going to eventually want to kill that. Unfortunately, there's just nothing arm 1 can do this early on that isn't terrible, so we have to take it out. But fortunately, arm 2 can use Slogger, and since everybody's in auto haste anyway, that's going to do exactly nothing. Now, unfortunately, the longer you leave the arms alive for, their turns start coming faster and faster and faster. I found the best number of sluggers to go for in this initial section was 3, but your mileage may vary. That was just what I found was working best for me. And then, obviously, eventually take it out. Now we've got a nice long period here where we can get a lot of damage down onto the body because both arms are down, which is good. And then when they eventually come back up, we can actually finally take a hit from arm 1. It's quite a long shot. This is the sort of where a lot of my runs ended was at this junction here, because the 2 arms spawn at the same time. They're going to take their turns at the same time. We're ideally looking for Slugger from arm 2 again, but if you see now, Kimahri's 1 hit away from death. And he doesn't even have a turn between the arms taking a turn and Penance taking a turn. So what we can get here is exactly what happened, a Calamity on Kimahri, which is going to do also nothing because he's going to get killed here. And then all those statuses are going to get wiped away when he gets revived. So you get really long odds here already. 4 sluggers in a row we're up to, plus specifically Calamity, which is a 1 in 3 chance, and it being specifically on Kimahri, which is another 1 in 3 chance. I'm taking a pause here just to sort of reset mental, because now this is a really valuable run. I got this far before, but the chances of succeeding here are pretty good. Well, I say pretty good. It's still less than 10%, but a lot better than they were when I was starting. So again, we're just going to take the arms out at the last possible second, so that they take as long as possible to respawn, while getting just as much damage as we can down onto Penance, because we need to shift him into phase 2 as soon as possible. As you can see, we're down to, what, maybe 2-3 hits that we can take yet. So it's actually possible at this junction for both Tidus and Auron, or one of them, to die to the next hit from Penance, and we need that to not happen. Like, it might be possible if only one goes down, but really we need them both to survive this hit, which they do, just barely. And now, really unfortunately, we don't quite have enough turns to get Penance into phase 2 and also get that right arm down to before it takes a turn. As you can see, I've been tracking everything very precisely, so Penance goes down right before the turn that would have wiped us out. And now he starts using Immolation, which is a single target attack, so it's a lot easier for us to take. But yeah, we need 3 hits on this right arm, and we only have 2. So again, we need a Calamity here. Less bothered about who it's on. And then Arm 2 is going to take a turn, and we need that to be either Slugger or it could attack someone. That's less ideal because the cooldown from dying is a lot longer than the cooldown from making an attack under these conditions, and as you can see, everybody's freaking dying, so we're not getting as many turns as we normally would, but we don't really have a choice other than to take what it gives us, hope for nothing that's a run ender, and hope that eventually we settle into some kind of rhythm. The second arm's inevitably going to get at least one more attack, probably a couple in, and we're just looking for it to be a regular attack, or like ideally a Slugger, because Slugger actually has a slightly longer cooldown as well, so it'll give us a bit more time to take it out, which is what we get. Now, unfortunately, Arm 1 is about to respawn, which puts me in a difficult position. I have to decide whether I want to take out Arm 1 or quickly finish off Arm 2. The reason I might want to go for Arm 1 is because there's actually less things it can do that's okay. All it can do is Calamity. Its other 2 attacks would be a run ender. So as you can see, I actually opt to let Arm 2 take a whole bunch of attacks in the hopes that I can prevent Arm 1 from making any attack. Arm 2 has a 2 in 3 chance of doing something that's probably fine, whereas Arm 1 would have a 2 in 3 chance of doing something that it didn't run. So Arm 2 gets a lot of attacks in here, and we're just hoping none of them will be Tetragraviton. And we get another Slugger, which is really, really lucky. And then just about have enough attacks to take out Arm 1 before it has a chance to do anything. So we're not fishing for that 1 in 3 chance of a Calamity again. But yeah, that does mean that Arm 2 is going to get another attack. So yeah, Penance here is obviously probably going to kill someone, which will put them on a longer cooldown and mean that we don't get as many attacks. But really, really fortunately here, Kimahri hangs on almost no health. Actually gets a counter attack in and gives us some more attacks to take out the arms with. We get another Slugger, which is ideal. And then from here, I can see that I've got enough attacks to take out Arm 2. I actually stop attacking it here because I want to kill it as late as possible to give myself the best chance of hitting that rhythm of one arm respawning just after I kill the other arm, so there's never 2 alive at the same time, and also maximizing the amount of hits I can put down on Penance. And you can see I think I'm scrabbling for a pen and paper so that I can actually record this all very precisely at this point in the recording, because yeah, I don't want to take any chances from here on in. I think I've realized that this is probably the run, and I'm going to want to start tallying how many attacks I've put down. So yeah, as you can see, get a good number of attacks. Because Kimahri survived, we can get a good number of attacks here, and then take out Arm 2 at the last minute. We still don't have the rhythm we're exactly looking for, because as Arm 2 goes down, Arm 1 does not spawn, which means Arm 2 is probably going to respawn before I can take out Arm 1, and there's that risk there of the 2 being up at the same time and getting a Judgment Day, or me not having enough attacks to take them both out before they get a turn, and one of them getting a turn, and then that also risks ending the run. Both of them can do things that end the run. Mega Graviton still ends the run, as does a Mighty Guard or an attack from Arm 1. And an attack from Arm 2 isn't ideal. That's going to cut down my number of attacks and potentially lead to more arms getting more turns. But yeah, as Arm 1 comes up here, just about getting as much damage down onto Arm 1 and trying to hold that rhythm, hoping that I can take it out before Arm 2 comes up. That by killing it as late as possible, I've done enough. You can actually see here that Penance is going to take the attack. We're quite deep into phase 2 now. We've got a good number of attacks on Penance's body, and he's had a good number of turns, so possibly the Judgment Day counter is already full. At this point, I wasn't tracking it. And what we actually see is, right after Penance takes his turn, he has both arms up. So potentially narrowly avoided death by Judgment Day there. But we are able to take Arm 1 out the turn after Arm 2 spawns, so that's quite promising in terms of us being able to hold the rhythm and just sort of slightly adjust to get to the point where as one arm's taken out, the other arm is spawning. Obviously, I'm going to want to take out Arm 2 as late as possible. Now, only Oren, I don't know if you saw, only Oren has a turn between Penance's turn and Arm 2's turn. So I really need him not to die here. But of course he does. So I'm in a bit of a pickle here. Fortunately, we get an attack from the arm. Well, I say fortunately, it's the middle thing it can do. Slugger would have been much better because you see it. See now how many attacks Kimahri has before anybody else gets a turn. I still want to kill Arm 2 as soon as possible because Arm 1 is coming. In fact, ideally, I'd kill it the turn before Arm 1 spawns and then hope for some kind of rhythm. And that is what we see here as I take out Arm 2, Arm 1 spawns. So this is the kind of thing I'm going to be looking for the rest of the fight. And it's... I'm digging in for a really long slog here in my head as I was playing through. It's like, okay, things seem to have settled. I've got enough turns to take out Arm 1. And hopefully just as I take it out, Arm 2 will spawn. Keep taking them both out where I've got spare attacks. Use them on Penance's body and hope I can kill him before I run out of Phoenix Downs. Interestingly enough, running out of Phoenix Downs isn't the only thing that can end the run at this point. Because Kimahri only had SOS haste, we didn't have an auto haste for him. And he has regen. It's actually possible for him to regen himself out of haste status, which would reduce our ability to do damage quickly and potentially leave us in a situation where both arms are up at the same time, or we weren't able to take out an arm before it got a turn, and we could die to Judgment Day or something from one of the arms. But we seem to have settled into the rhythm we were looking for now. Arms are spawning as the other arms die, so I'm not going to make you sit through all of this at regular one-time speed. I played it all through at regular one-time speed because I did not want to make a mistake or a misclick at this point. I had almost 100 hours, I think, in attempts just to get this far. This was by far the farthest I'd got in any of my runs. So I am just going to speed up the footage. So one scenario that has the potential to sort of catch you out here is when Penance has an attack, and then only one of your characters has an attack before the turn of one of the arms. Now that's a tricky situation because obviously we want to take these arms out as late as possible, but if we risk sort of leaving it alive and hoping that that one attack will take it out, if that character is then killed, the arm will get a turn, which is obviously something we really want to avoid at this point. And I actually find myself in this situation quite soon, where it's you're going to see that it's Kimahri who has a turn after Penance's turn, and before the arms, and you can see his health is getting quite high. I couldn't remember if he was armor broken or not at this point, so I actually looked at the items menu just to hover over and see, hey, is Kimahri armor broken? Which he wasn't, so I knew if he took this attack, he would have survived and would have been able to finish off the arm. As it happens, he didn't, and it didn't matter. But you can also see Kimahri's getting quite high. He almost is about to regen out of SOS haste when he takes that attack and then knocks him back down. He's still, uncomfortably high. I would really quite like him to die here. I can't remember how long. Did he get 2 in a row? Yeah, he did get 2 in a row, and then nice and low. So actually, the ideal sequence of events is Kimahri gets killed, and then the next attack is directed somewhere else, as you see here, because then that'll give him enough time to heal so that he can actually survive one attack, get his counter in, get the extra turn or two, and then ideally sort of die again quite soon after. So there's that minimizes the number of Phoenix Downs we're gonna need, maximizes our damage against Penance, and also avoids that risk of overhealing. So while we've got a bit of time here, I think it's worth talking about ticks and why all this works. So for those of you that don't know, the in-game sort of timing system that determines who gets a turn when uses a system called ticks, or a unit called ticks. So when you kill one of the Penance's arms, it will respawn exactly 12 ticks later, and after it respawns, it will also take its first turn 12 ticks after respawning. So it's very useful because it does mean that once you're in the rhythm, you know that if you kill an arm as late as possible before its first turn, the other arm should respawn at the same time. Now, unfortunately, we're not fast enough to take a turn every tick, so it's not always quite as precise as that. In fact, to tie back to what I was saying earlier about death being a longer cooldown than just attacking, in tick terms, when we attack in this fight, that character's next turn will be 4 ticks later. But if a character dies, their turn won't be until 9 ticks after they're revived. So it's quite a big difference in terms of how much time, how many attacks you lose as a result of dying. And all of this is indicated in that menu on the top right. The amount of pink shows how many ticks between actions. So if 2 actions sort of line up exactly where there's no pink, that means those 2 actions are occurring on the same tick. Unfortunately, we always get to act first as the player, ahead of any enemies, if we're acting on the same tick. So again, ideally, we want to take out the arm on the same tick as it would be taking its turn. And I'm just sort of observing where that doesn't happen, just being aware that its respawn will be slightly ahead of where I want it to be, and that might mean I need to take out the other arm a little early as well. Often that sort of works itself out anyway, but it is just worth keeping an eye on. Sort of if you see a few in a row where it's like, oh, I've killed arm 2 early quite a bit, I might be getting really out of sync, could be worth thinking about killing arm 1 a full turn early. Both either just to be safe or you know, and avoid them getting too far out of sync and risking having them both up at the same time, because there's not a big margin for error unless you know, Kamari survives a hit. We get maybe 1 hit on Penance for each arm we take out. So there's really not a lot of wriggle room with this rhythm. Yeah, you have to stick to it quite precisely and monitor it quite precisely, because there were a few occasions where I was risking getting out of the rhythm, and you probably see a few occasions where I do kill an arm and the other arm doesn't spawn immediately, or there's 2 arms up for a turn or 2. There's some interesting things I found while I was doing all these runs. One run that wasn't this run that I'm not showing, that actually kind of got as far as this. Was a run where arm 1 used Mighty Guard. Now, Mighty Guard, among other things, casts regen on Penance, which obviously is terrible in phase 1 because we're under so much time pressure, but I thought maybe if it's in that transition where Penance is technically in phase 2, he can't heal himself back out of phase 2 into phase 1. So yeah, maybe I'll have a load of health to get through in phase 2, but maybe I'll have enough Phoenix Downs to deal with it. But what actually happened was quite interesting. I don't know if this is a known thing, but regen is supposed to wear off, according to the wiki at least, after 10 turns of the person in the status. But that never happened. in that fight. So Penance had regen cast on him, and I thought, well, he'll heal up a bit, but the status will eventually wear off, and I can wear him back down, and maybe I won't run out of Phoenix Downs. But took 10 turns, didn't wear off. Took 20 turns, didn't wear off, and in the end, I ran out of Phoenix Downs somewhere around 60 or 70 turns of his, and he was still in regen status. I don't know if that's just how regen works on enemies, or if it's a Penance specific thing, if it's a bug, if it's deliberate, if it wasn't known about until now, because, like, in any sane run, you would just immediately dispel regen off Penance if Mighty God was ever cast. So yeah, I don't quite know if anybody does know, sort of, if that was known, if that's for any enemy that has regen. If you could drop a comment, I'd be really interested to know. I did do a bit of digging. I couldn't find anything anywhere. All I could find is that, yeah, no, regen's supposed to wear off after 10 of your turns, but it didn't, and that was a problem. That made these long odds even longer, and is why the only thing that Arm 1 can do ever is Calamity, because the other thing that it can do is attack. Now Arm 2 attack is okay, because when on 2 attacks, the other thing it does is it dispels positive status effects from the person it's attacking. But we can't cast status effects. There are only positive status effects or auto effects which can't be dispelled. Whereas when Arm 1 attacks, it petrifies and shatters the character. We don't have stone protection. We don't have space on the armor for ribbon. So we just can never take that attack, because there's no way of doing this with 2 characters. So the only thing that Arm 1 can ever do is Calamity. Whereas Arm 2 can Sloga and can attack. Obviously can't Mega Graviton, because that would be 3/4 of our health. And that, I think you can see from how this fight goes, there's no point at which that's even close to acceptable. And even if it were, it also inflicts, I think, sleep among other statuses. So yeah, Mega Graviton is obviously always a reset. So to try and anticipate some questions that you might have, particularly about Phase 1, why do we need to reset for Sloga? Sort of later in the fight, you are happy to allow Arm 2 to attack, and that doesn't seem that bad. It's just a bit of damage. Well, unfortunately, in Phase 1, once a character starts dying, they're going to die over and over and over again to Penance's attack. And as I've already shown, sort of each death costs an attack or 2, and because of the huge time pressure in Phase 1 to take out Penance before he takes out you, because Auto Phoenix is useless in Phase 1, or at least it's not a guarantee of survival. So yeah, anything that does damage is really bad. In a similar vein, why don't you let Arm 1 use Calamity? Because Calamity inflicts poison, and whichever character gets Calamity is going to die that much faster, and then keep dying and keep losing lots of turns. Another question you might have is, okay, so why don't you just leave Arm 2 up and just let it keep using Sloga? Well, as I alluded to before, Penance... So when Penance's arm spawns, it will take 1 turn with a regular cooldown, if you like. And then after that, so from its 2nd turn after dying onwards, it'll be in haste status. And so its turns will come that much faster. So just in terms of the probability of it using Sloga, when it's using Sloga every, I think, 4 ticks, so that's like each of my characters attacks, and then I needed to use Sloga, and then each of my characters attacks, and then I needed to use Sloga again. Just the odds of that become ridiculous. I mean, the odds are already ridiculous, but they become even more ridiculous if you want like Sloga. You save so much time, because you kill that arm. You've then got 12 ticks before it even spawns. 12 ticks before it takes its first turn. Potentially about 12, or I think it might be 16 ticks cooldown after he uses one slugger, and it's only then after that that the sluggers start coming in really quickly. So you it's a trade-off. It definitely is a trade-off. But I found the right number was to get 3 sluggers, because that's not too unlikely. It's like a 1 in 27 chance of getting 3 sluggers right off the bat, and you can quickly reset for them. But beyond that, you're getting into like about a 1% or less than 1% if you're resetting for more than that, and it's not really necessary, because you can kill it and you can get then get a lot of attacks in before it respawns, and then you let it use 1 slugger, and then you kill it again, and then you let it use 1 slugger, and then you kill it again. So, as you might imagine, when I was playing through this and sort of resetting for hundreds of hours, I was, spending a lot of my time thinking about, is there a better way to do this? Is there anything I can change to make this more likely, or even just faster? And I did eventually come up with something. That's not what this video is about, because it does involve cheating a little bit more. It's a little more bendy on the rules of attack only than what Dansko 8 did against any of the Dark Aeons, or in any of the post game. So I wanted to prove that it was possible using the sort of strictest, truest rule set for attack only. But I did come up with another method that I proved was possible. I've actually already recorded. I'll be making a video about it soon. It does involve bending the rules a little bit more. In my opinion, it's still very much in the spirit of attack only. I don't want to spoil it too much, because you guys might want to sort of go away and see if you can figure it out while I'm making that video. But while I had literally thousands of resets on this, I think it took me only 4 resets to get the new adjusted, improved method to work. So I'm definitely going to put that together and share it, especially if people respond well to this video. But yeah, it's something out there for you to go and try and figure out, and see if you can find a way to bend the rules that makes it possible. And honestly, like it was probably more possible than 4 times. Like, I messed up, or like sort of was refining the technique as I was going through. If I were to do it again, there's probably a pretty good chance I'd do it first time. Anyway, to get back to the battle, I think I knew at this point, because I was tracking exactly how many hits I'd done to each arm, and also to Penance's core, including the counterattack. So I knew at this point it was getting close to going down. But also, as you can see, Kimahri's health is really starting to creep up again, and that is potentially going to be a problem. He's about to tick over into 40,000, and there's not a lot of wiggle room left here. I'll probably need one of the next 2 attacks to hit him. And there we go. Kimahri goes down, and I know I'm really close to the end here. I don't want to upset the rhythm, or take any unnecessary risks. So we're still gonna get that arm down, take the immolation. But yeah, with this 1 free attack that we've got, we do manage to take out Penance using attack only. It's possible, definitively possible, using the Dansko 8 rules, if you like. I mean, not the auto battle rules, but the attack only rules. Definitely don't recommend doing it. Definitely don't recommend this method of doing it. At least the other method is quite interesting. You don't even need 2 auto regen armors for it. You can be quite flexible with it actually. So Dansko 8, if you're watching, that's the method I recommend you use if you're going to pull up your save and try and do this. I will just hang around to show you guys sort of the post prove that it was done on an actual sphere grid, and the weapons and armor. So like I say, I this is an edited save. Everything was hacked in, but it is all stuff that you could have in an attack only run. And like I say, it's on an actual sphere grid as well. Although that's not strictly necessary. I think there aren't actually that many stats that really matter to this fight. Obviously, health, attack, defense, speed, or agility, and luck are all very important. Accuracy might help, but not really if you're maxed in luck. We don't need magic, we don't need MP, we don't even need magic defense. Penance doesn't have... Penance and his arms don't have any attack that hits magic defense, so it's not really necessary. There's also nothing in this fight we can evade, so evasion's not necessary. So you can easily max out all the relevant stats on a standard sphere grid. And just in the spirit of sort of providing evidence and proving that this is possible, I'll probably upload a full unsped up, unvoiceovered version of the fight for anybody that wants to watch all 2 hours of that. I don't expect anybody to watch it. It's fine if nobody watches it, but just if anybody's sort of doubting or suspecting any trickery, that you can go over it really with a fine-tooth comb and see everything at normal speed. But yeah, that's it. That's how I defeated Penance using attack only. Thanks very much for watching. If you made it to the end of this video, subscribe and bell me if you want to see that other video about the sane method for defeating Penance attack only, where we bend the rules a little bit. But otherwise, that's it. Free Palestine. Wow, thank you for watching that really long video. For anyone who's interested, I'm going to be streaming a no sphere grid playthrough of Final Fantasy X over on my Twitch. That'll be starting this Sunday as of when the video is released. So that's Sunday the 21st of April at 6 p.m. BST, and then thereafter streaming every Tuesday and Sunday at 6 p.m. BST. Thank you.